Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the all-new, and I truly mean all-new, Nissan Leaf. Now, of course, on this channel, we are going to take this all-new Leaf on a full tour and review, so definitely go have a watch at that video. But on this video, we're going to take it on a drive, and I have to say, I've been really enjoying this vehicle over the course of the entire week. Everything works so well. It's super efficient, it's really smooth, and range has been impressive. Charging speeds have been impressive. I really like this interior. There is not much to complain about. I will have to say there are some very small things that are honestly could be irrelevant for some of you, but this has been a great car this week. Quick overview of what we got going on in the interior here. Nice slim steering wheel, really premium feeling materials. This is the Platinum Plus, the fully loaded Leaf, but they all kind of look the same. They all kind of have this screen. This one is the largest version, even though it's just like 2 inches bigger than the regular screens. But you know, really nice stuff here. We have wireless CarPlay. My phone puts right here. We can also put your phone right down there. There's USB-C ports down there. We have a lot of storage solutions. There's a storage box right here, as well as a glove box here, and a pretty sizable center console. And since we have the Platinum Plus, we're also getting a heads-up display on this one, a really configurable digital cluster over here, and we have Apple Maps running right now. So I have Apple Maps showing up over here, for example. We've built in Google Maps as well. Seats are really comfortable. We have zero gravity seats up front here, blue seat belts on this one. You can even get a really nice bright white creamish interior. EV information is also really good. We charged the vehicle this week as well, and that was impressive. It actually had a really high charge rate. I love all the screens and stuff going on in here. Really easy to use and works well as well. But overall, like I mentioned, this car has been fantastic this week, and now of course it's time to take it out on a drive. Okay, so popping our vehicle into drive over here, we have these push buttons, which is a really nice little function there, and we can head off and go. We also got a really nice reversing camera in the reverse as well that you can actually access up to around 5 miles per hour on the vehicle. And you can see once we hit over 5, it should disappear. It may have been 10 miles per hour now, actually. That's pretty nice. But starting off this Nissan Leaf, we have a few different drive modes as well, from Eco, Standard, Sport, and Personal. Let's start off in Eco mode real quick, just get a little bit of a calmer sense of how this car drives. And it's actually really lovely. This is one of the things that has really been impressive to me over the course of this week, is how this vehicle drives on the road. You know, the suspension is really nice. We have a multi-link setup out back, just the traditional McPherson strut style up front. But with this low center of gravity, and on top of it with the overall just dimensions of the vehicle, it handles itself really well on the roads. So again, the suspension's been a really strong point of this vehicle over the course of this week. Now, of course, the Leaf is front-wheel drive only. We have around 214 horsepower up front with around 260-ish pound-feet of torque, which is a bump, and I think is a good bump. It's plenty enough, I think, for this vehicle. It's not big. It's a relatively small vehicle, even for how large the battery pack is for this size of car. It's around 75 kilowatt hours, which is enabling it to get that range, you know, in the 300 figures in the lower trims. This one with the Platinum Plus with the larger wheels, 19-inch, you're getting around 260 miles, and I totally believe that. I drove this vehicle down past 0% state of charge this week of testing, and it kept going, and we had over around 230 plus miles of range from around 80%. So that extra 20%, I honestly, I think it could go a little bit further than its EPA mile range claim, and that's pretty impressive. And it's cold out too. It's in the 30-degree Fahrenheit temperatures here. But you know, this thing's really efficient, 0.26 drag coefficient as well, so it really likes to glide quite nicely on the road. We'll pop it into sport mode here just for a second. We're at 50% state of charge, and I will say over this week I haven't noticed any sort of, you know, low battery loss of power situations. This thing does like to spin its front tires sometimes with all of that instant electric torque and power, which is kind of a fun little feature here. You got more power in the Leaf now, kind of cool, but that doesn't go to say that this car feels unstable at all. It's actually really confidence inspiring. And we have a lot of regen levels here just as we come to a stop. So these paddle shifters are actually really nice as well. They don't make any you know, awful clanking sound, which some paddle shifters I've experienced. So we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of regenerative braking there, and it actually increases as you go lower in the battery pack, we've noticed over this week of testing. So when you're higher in the battery pack at around 80 to 90% state of charge, you don't have as much regenerative braking, which I guess kind of makes sense. The only weird thing with this car is you don't get one pedal drive. You do have auto brake hold over here, and we have Nissan's e-step function here. So that essentially is full force regenerative braking, but it doesn't bring you to a full complete stop, unfortunately, which I think is a little funky. But if you just tap the brake when you come to a stop, you have the auto brake hold that, you know, makes you stop right there. For example, right now, full stop, you know, it works like that. But weird that we don't have full no one pedal driving. This e-step mode I think is okay. I've noticed it moves the brake pedal like the Mercedes EVs, which I am not really a big fan of. I think it's kind of scary feeling. So I honestly have just been playing with the the regenerative braking modes on the steering wheel over the course of this week. So I'm going to turn off e-step there, and now we've moved up to standard mode. Now there is a difference between standard and the regular eco mode. Eco mode, you definitely notice the acceleration is just a little bit more damped than in standard mode. You kind of feel like there's a little bit more free power in this standard mode versus eco, and that would make sense. So there is a true difference there. I also feel a little bit more regenerative braking happening in eco mode, just normally in the lowest level versus the standard mode as well. But again, going back to my little suspension conversation here, this car reminds me a lot, in a lot of great ways, of the Volvo EX30. I thought that car drove and handled itself really well. It was really quiet, pretty solid over bumps, and I feel that here as well in this vehicle. It does not feel cheap at all. It feels like a premium, solid, well-built product, and that is really impressive to me. And since it's kind of shared around the Nissan Ariya's architecture, which I loved on this channel just because of how competent and how comfortable it was, even though it's going away. For whatever reason, Nissan's decided to do that. It got a lot of these same bones here, which I think is great. So going over, you know, sewer drains or bumps in the road, it handles it with such great, you know, poise, I would say, in this chassis. You don't get any jitters or bumps ever. Even on these larger 19-inch wheels, it's just so well tuned over, you know, the road. And that has to do with the lower center of gravity. This really rigid chassis as well. It's 30% plus 30% stiffer, I believe, than the last generation Nissan Leaf, which is really nice to see. Steering, you know, there's no feel, but with front wheel drive as well, you kind of get some good, you know, control of the vehicle, and it's not overly light. There's a little bit of some just natural weight to it, and I have to say it just drives itself very neutral, very composed. There's some body roll, but it's very well controlled throughout the corners as well. So I have to say, handling, it's not exciting, it's not enjoyable, it's not thrilling per se, but it's very competent, very confident, and very controlled, I would say, in all aspects of driving with this Nissan Leaf. And we also have a whole bunch of configurable gauge clusters up here, like I mentioned earlier. There's a lot to really kind of search around and pick out what you want to see, or just different information you want to pick out and see. Over here, like I mentioned, we have maps. We can even change to meter view. So if I double press this button here, or maybe press it once, we have a shortcut button, so you don't have to go digging through the settings in there to make it regular circular gauges again, which is nice. To press that again, I can change it right back to my more futuristic silent gauges we have here. Coming to a stop, I'm going to test out our regen paddles. It almost feels like the car is downshifting in a sense, which is kind of cool. A lot of EVs do these regen paddles. These ones work really well. I was just a little stumped at the beginning of the week when I was using all 4 regen levels and no slowdown was happening. I was like, what's going on? But it just turns out you need to be lower in this battery pack to get use of these paddles, which is an interesting note here. Auto brake hold works really well. No issues really to complain about there. This thing just loves to smoke its tires on a corner and just lightly tapping on the throttle. That's what you get in these EVs these days. But again, really nice, competent handling in this Nissan Leaf. Now, before we go out onto the highway, we have a lot of great features as well in terms of safety stuff. So we have radar adaptive cruise control, we have parking sensors, we have all that great stuff going on here, blind spot as well, and again, all those great camera systems helping you out in the vehicle. I wish they kind of enabled it to have like that camera as a turn signal function. I'm pretty sure they could do that. Since it has the 360 cameras, the angle might be a little funky on the mirror, but I think that would be a cool thing to add in here as well. and going around a corner, really strong power coming out of a corner. Like I mentioned, it has a lot of confidence, this car, driving it, which I really like over the course of this week. We'll throw it back into the sport mode once we hop out onto the highway as well. But we also have great integration on this Platinum Plus. So this is getting the more advanced software system. It's really not too different than the one you're going to get in the other Leafs, but you can see on here on the steering wheel, I believe they all do this, is where you can cycle through your infotainment screen with the steering wheel. I've seen this in other Nissan and Infiniti products now. It even works in Apple CarPlay as well, which I think is so cool. But this is a good safety feature, I would have to say, in my own right, because you don't want to be, stretching out, touching in all cases. And since this car doesn't have any sort of dial in the center to move stuff around, I think this is actually a pretty great solution. I know Mercedes does something a little bit similar to this as well, and it works well here. And the Google voice integration is pretty good as well. So I could say, hey Google, turn off my heated seat.
Okay, turning off the seat heater for the driver.
Thank you, Google. Hey Google, what's the temperature outside?
The current temperature in Viola is 34 degrees.
Okay, 33 on there, 34. Interesting little discrepancy there, but it works really well, actually. So I think that's not too bad. You can ask it to find the charging stations and control some other basic vehicle functions as well, which is a nice touch in this vehicle. Acceleration off the line's really smooth and linear as well, which I quite like a lot. Really no, rough acceleration. Even in the sport mode, it's not overly touchy with the accelerator pedal tuning there, which I think is a really nice feature. So you don't feel like, you're flooring it all the time, every single time you tap this accelerator pedal here, which is really nice touch. Now heading out onto the highway here, really well handled those bumps there. I really feel that solidity in this chassis, which is nice. Again, we'll turn off our regenerative braking here, and we'll get a quick acceleration. In sport mode, you can hear the motor whine up a little bit when you kind of accelerate. I'll shut up. I'm not sure if that's coming across on camera, but in the background, you have a little bit of this electric motor whine. You can kind of hear that, which is kind of cool. But this thing is competently fast. It's quick. It's not slow whatsoever. Around 214 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque is very well respectable, I would say, for this size of vehicle. And since it's electric, you get the added benefit of the instant torque of the electric motor up front there. So that's really nice. Now on the highway here, I'll pop it back into standard mode for us right now. It's really quiet, actually. Now I'm gonna say that even though you may hear some wind noise, it is incredibly windy this week. We have like 20 mile-per-hour wind gusts, so that's a little bit of an unusual factor here. But we have a completely flat underbody. There's a really sleek aerodynamic shape on this Leaf. We have a 0.26 drag coefficient, which is a pretty big improvement actually over the last Leaf, and that's a really good area for aerodynamics in an electric vehicle, getting as close as you can down to 0.2. But this thing handles itself very well on the highway, and you can see we're going at highway speeds right now, and it doesn't feel like you're traveling at that speed. I have that issue in a lot of cheaper economy vehicles or just lower cost vehicles. They don't really tune themselves really well for higher highway speeds. This is different. It actually handles itself really well out on the highway. I feel very composed. Tracks really straight as well for a front-wheel drive vehicle. Really no issues there, and I love the heads-up display information on this Platinum Plus one. Now, of course, we have our Nissan Pilot Assist systems on here. So easy to activate. You just prop the little button on and set your speed to go, and that's it. These systems are pretty easy these days, and we've tested this in a whole host of different Nissan products. You have full steering assist as well, so it will keep you centered in the lane and steer you around corners. It's not a simple lane keep assist. I really love the information we get on the heads-up display up there, and in our Pro Pilot Assist screen we have over here as well, which is really nice. There's no advanced features though. There's no hands-off. There's no lane change assist or anything like that. So if you pop on your blinker, for example, it just deactivates the steering assist function right there, so it's not grabbing you back into the lane, which I think is a good thing to do. But it works really well. I wish this is a crazy ask, I think, for a Leaf, but the Aria had the feature, I believe, when we tested it, where you could take your hands off for brief moments of time. I'd love to see that stuffed into this Platinum Plus model at some point one day. But overall, there really isn't a lot of complaints I've had in this vehicle this week. It's really comfortable on the highway, and with this added range now, the larger battery pack, and the addition of this much faster charging now, up to 150 kilowatt DC fast charging, with a strong charging curve, with a heat pump and all that stuff in the winter, this thing is really, really a galactic improvement over the previous Leaf, and it feels it on the road. I really am impressed with it this week. And handling wise, it's great, it's quiet, it's comfortable. It feels a little bit more premium and more sturdy than even I was expecting as well. You know, just kind of taking it through this corner here at a higher rate of speed, you just feel so planted. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and honestly, I don't even think this is out on a limb. I think this overall feels like a much better package than even the updated Subaru Solterra / Toyota BZ we just drove. And that is a bigger vehicle for sure, but this just feels like a class above that car in a sense. It just feels more solid, more premium, and overall just more refined than those vehicles. So really big hats off to Nissan. You got to look at this car if you're shopping around in this lower entry level EV space. It can be around 30 grand if you want it, and there's a cheaper variant coming out as well. And for around 40 grand, as this one is pretty much fully loaded, you don't have to have all these crazy fun features, but I mean, you might as well, because you're getting a whole lot of car with it at the same time. Now, we do have the upgraded Bose audio system in this vehicle as well, which is actually really impressive. We have headrest speakers, and you can adjust your, surround sound level of that headrest speaker system right there. And it's easy to access on the fly as well. You can just tap your little shortcut button here. You can adjust the intensity of that surround. So I'm going to turn up the volume here on our test track. I have to say, for a vehicle in this price range, in this class, this is a really good audio system. I mean, this audio system alone, I think, is worth upgrading to the Platinum. It's actually really good. It reminds me of the higher end Bose audio systems you'll find in like some of the Mazda products in a sense, and even in some higher, more expensive Nissan products, the higher end Bose systems. This one's really impressive. These headrest speakers legitimately work. You can adjust that 3D intensity around you, and it also kind of pairs with navigation or phone calls in some cases to kind of isolate audio to like the front driver, for example, so it's not blasting around the cabin. It's really smart tech, and that's just the common theme I've had with this Nissan Leaf over the course of this week of testing. Everything in this car is really smart. It works well, it's well integrated, the software is really great. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything in this vehicle, and that's just been a really great thing. One little gripe, I would say these haptic climate controls are a little far out of reach, and sometimes you really just gotta press it sometimes, but that's not the biggest complaint I would say of this car. There really is no bigger complaint than that. It just works well. Yeah, it's small. The seats are a little bit tiny in the back, but I can move up a little bit more if I had to in those cases. But it's fun. It's fun. It's really great. This electrochroamatic roof up here really genuinely does work when it is not transparent as we have it right now to block out sun. I have no sun hitting me whatsoever, and I believe it has a UV coating to prevent any further sun kind of hitting you as well. But this is a great vehicle. Great job, Nissan, I really have to say. So consider this if you're looking for something in this class. Definitely have a watch at our full touring review to check out all the really cool quirks and features of this car. There's a lot of unique little details that Nissan's kind of design stuff splattered throughout this interior, which is a really fun thing. But I'm impressed. It kind of makes me sad the Aria is gone because I actually like that car, and I know they just improved on it even more so for this model year for other markets, even though ours is gone. But this is a good replacement in the meantime. Maybe they'll add all-wheel drive in the future. Maybe we'll get a silly Nismo variant. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of potential for this car to grow and expand in the Nissan lineup. It's really that impressive. And as always, guys, as we come to a conclusion of our drive, thank you for joining us on yet another drive and review over at Allcarnews. And as always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.